15. Spaces Between. Kenneth analyzed their surroundings versus all the places they had been and how they got from place to place. Each time he thought they had jumped a barrier or gone through something that looked like a hologram or mirage. He realized Roxy needed another directive command. So, Rainbow Bridge, Archway, Stone Screen, or whatever that was, high launch point? And this looks like the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains. So what are we most likely to find here? Sparkles on the water drew Kenneth's eyes. Again, water seemed to want to guide their direction. He stood in the stirrups, looking in all directions at the lay of the land. To the right was the way they had come. He discarded that route out of hand. They couldn't cross, and the only direction was left along the river bank. The sound of the water lapping the banks against the rocks gave him an idea. The flow was coming from their left, and passed in front of them. He made a decision. Roxy, go left along the bank against the flow of the water. Seek a rainbow or another jump point. I'm pretty sure if we came out with you, we should be able to go the other direction, too. This water has to come from somewhere, and logic dictates probably the mountains, which means waterfalls. As bright as it is out here, we should be able to find a rainbow, yes? The hound woofed at him and took off running. By late afternoon, judging from the sun's angle, Kenneth decided to rest his horse and let him and Roxy drink from the river. The current's strength was greater here in response to the land rising toward the mountains. The water's white-capped waves washed over the stones of the creek. Wildlife was plentiful. The air was full of bird songs and the smell of pine needles. Fish jumped in the river, and squirrels busily looked for nuts. Kenneth caught his breath when a huge, solid white stag separated itself from the trees. As it approached the Whitewater River on the opposite bank, it stared at them. It bugled, and Kenneth almost got the feeling that it greeted him. The deer dipped his head and bowed at his wave. A prickle of recognition caused goosebumps. Wait, didn't the legend say Skuld sometimes rides a white stag? Kenneth said softly out loud. He laughed suddenly, startling some noisy crows out of the trees. I swing! I thought you guys were gone and left us all alone out here, Kenneth yelled across the water. Long and shrill, a whistle sounded from behind them. The stag gathered itself, reared, and leaped upward. Snowy wings snapped out, and Icewing landed beside them moments later. Skuld laughed and vaulted up on her horse. You figured it out. We have been with you the whole time. You simply didn't recognize us. Remember the bird flying over the green forest? We showed you how to work out the flying route, but you had to figure it out yourself. Skuld told him. I get it. Kenneth nodded. You said you'd watch, but not help. What about now? We took a wrong turn somewhere. No, you're doing fine. You needed to stop for water in a safe location, so you were allowed to emerge on the Earth. This will be the last exit. You are pushed now for time. We are seeing an unusual number of demoni on the move. You will have to move fast to stay out of trouble. I will have to leave you soon. I must help stem the tide of taint. Your quest is more urgent now than ever. The fingerprint of the Spear of Chaos is all over this, but you must not turn aside. Find the Spear of Destiny and bring it back safely. You're talking different than you were before about this. Something's changed, Skuld replied cryptically. I'll stay with you a little further, as long as I can, but then I will send you on. All right, then. Let's go. Roxy, seek, Kenneth ordered. They continued at speed along the river as it rose among the rocks. Kenneth could hear the roar of a waterfall close by when they stopped again for water and a little grazing for the horses. The sun shone with a golden cast in the evening light. If they were going to use a rainbow as a jump point, Kenneth knew they would have to hurry. Falling into a sparkling pool, the waterfall wasn't quite deafening, but was still very loud. The light was angled just enough to form a bright rainbow in the mist. To reach it, they would need to jump from the riverbank. Scold went first. Icewing leaped again, aided by his powerful wings. Roxy and Bucephalus were close on their heels. This time it seemed like they fell through the shimmering light, but instead of landing in the water, their surroundings instantly changed again. Bucephalus's hooves hit solid stone, and they came up short with a large, heavily armored, and stern-looking Viking blocking their progress. Skuld saluted and rode up to him without fear. "Greetings, Heimdall." "Aye, sister. Again there is a mortal on the Rainbow Bridge. The last time this did not end well," he said, and looked piercingly at Kenneth, who sighed. "But you accompany him." "Heimdall?" Kenneth said. He was getting tired of being questioned at every turn. "Skuld doesn't need to speak for me. We are here by our own free will, but not of our choosing. We have just been informed that we need to pass through quickly and be about our business to foil Loki's plans. I take it there's a reason you are standing in our way? Do you have news or assistance for us?" Heimdall looked surprised at the boy's directness and lack of fear. He looked closer. Amber heat flared in his brown eyes. No, not a boy, and not mortal either, though he wore mortal skin. "My apologies, warrior." He saluted and stood aside. Bucephalus reared to full height with his raven-black wings open and bellowing. His front feet touched the ground, and the dark-colored horse folded his wings in with an impish snort. Together they made an impressive pair. Heimdall watched them take the lead following the hound, with the Valkyrie on her snowy steed running close behind. The rainbow quivered from their passing and faded as the sun moved in the sky, closing the portal where they passed. They found themselves on the moon paths again, speeding through the dimly lit corridors. A couple of shadows launched themselves at the horses and quickly went down under them only to be trampled. The riders didn't stop, but Skuld made sure they would no longer move as she passed with her spear. When the path ahead lightened to take on the cast of sunset, Bucephalus came to a sudden sliding halt. Kenneth was glad of the saddle that kept him in his seat rather than on the horse's neck. "What is it?" Kenneth asked. Bucephalus nickered and stood steady. Behind them, Skuld, who had managed to stop without knocking over the black horse, solved the puzzle. "Dreamer, or it appears to be. This is where discernment matters," she reminded him. "Things are not always what they seem. Remember?" Kenneth judged the child was maybe 5 or 6. She wandered down the road toward them in a pink nightdress. Her stuffed bunny was cuddled in her arms, nearly hidden by the girl's long, light brown hair. Brightly smiling, she came close to the horses who towered over her head. "Horsey!" She giggled. Bucephalus gently sniffed her and blew in her hair. She wrapped her arms around his face. "Nice, Horsey!" She giggled again. "Would you like to come have some tea, nice Horsey? You can come to my tea party." Kenneth gently addressed the little girl. "You have tea? My horse loves tea. But we have important matters to take care of." "Are you a knight on a noble quest like a bedtime story my daddy reads to me?" She beamed up at him without fear. "Why, yes." Kenneth humored the child. "I left my kingdom to go find something very special to protect it." "My bun is special too," the little girl said. "My mommy gave it to me before she died of cancer. She said it would be my friend and protect me from boogeymen in my closet." She held up the stuffed rabbit in both hands, even though there were tears in her eyes. She smiled again as she had an idea. "Would you like to hold Bun for good luck, Sir Noble Knight?" Kenneth looked around at Skuld for help. She was smiling, but remained silent. He shrugged. Leaning down, he reached out a hand and took the offered rabbit from the child. Surprised, he could feel the love that the child had imbued in the toy. "You have to cuddle her like this." She crossed her arms to her chest and hugged herself. Bucephalus nosed her head, making the child giggle again.
Your hair is very pretty and your eyes pretty, horsey. Here, this has always helped me.
The little girl reached up and removed a light blue barrette from her hair. Taking a firm hold, she grabbed Bucephalus's forelock and pulled his head down. He was unresisting when the child placed it in his hair. She clapped her hands and squealed in delight.
You have a blue eye the same color, the child said. You can keep it so you can see.
Bucephalus nickered softly when the cute little girl planted a kiss on his nose. Kenneth offered the well-loved toy back to the child. She snatched it with both hands and hugged it fiercely.
My bonbon, she said and walked off. Bye-bye, pretty horsey and noble knights.
She waved one last time and then ignored them. Kenneth watched her go for a moment and saw her sit down on a blanket with a tea set, quietly humming to herself and holding her rabbit. The whole scene abruptly disappeared. What the? He then turned to Scold in surprise. A dreamer, as I said, Scold said. They manifest their own personal reality and can bring items with them from Earthside when they spirit walk. The hair clip she just gave your horse is one such item. Because it is such, and a gift, you too may keep it. It won't disappear or transform into something else. She disappeared because she went back home in either a dreamless sleep or she woke up. Okay. Kenneth squinted and rubbed his face, brushing his hair back. I'll figure that one out later. Let's proceed, shall we? They continued from there with riders and horses, both staying alert for more attacks or more innocents wandering about. Bucephalus held his head a little higher and strutted as he trotted. Kenneth didn't complain about his ride being slightly bouncier. Proud of your new jewelry, are you? Kenneth laughed a little. Bucephalus flicked an ear back at him, but only snorted in reply. The next time the sky lightened, Roxy stopped at a crossroads and sniffed around. She sped up again, this time on the leftward bearing road. Here the road quickly became gravel, and the riders moved the horses to the shoulder so they could travel on the grass instead of sharp stones. Roxy barked several times and sped up to a run, baying as she went. They sped past succulent-appearing fruit trees and flowering gardens. The further they went, the brighter it got, and the scents were almost cloying, they were so strong. Bucephalus scented something new besides flowers, and he slowed to a walk before he finally stopped. When Kenneth nudged him, he shook his head and switched to the other side of the road, snorting a loud alarm. He sidestepped facing an object in a heap at the side of the road where he'd just avoided walking. Icewing also kept his distance, eyeing it carefully. Both horses blew and breathed deeply. Bucephalus stuck his nose in the air, sampling the scent. He bellowed and struck out furiously with one foreleg. His ears were flat against his skull. Kenneth saw that Icewing also had his ears flattened and was glaring. It looked vaguely human, but was covered in something white, whatever the object was. It twitched and something rolled behind it. Kenneth heard Scold suck in her breath, but she didn't say anything. The teen realized she didn't have to add. Either it wasn't dangerous, or it was, and it was deceptive. Bucephalus didn't trust it, and he was inclined to listen to his horse's opinion. If it was dangerous, it might not be a good idea to leave it behind him to come up on their trail. So, what are you? Kenneth asked.
Help me.
The object moaned. It twitched again and lifted itself off the ground. It was a woman. She was lovely, and her top half, that they could see, was scantily clad. She dripped with jewelry, and her face had an exotic tilt. The woman's hands were obviously stuck and covered with white sticky thread like her bottom half. She could not move except to push up with her hands and arch her back. Her large, well-shaped breasts jiggled as she moved. Kenneth was skeptical. Are you trying to get free or display yourself? He asked her.
I'm trapped. Can you not get me loose before the spider comes back?
She batted her eyes at him and flung her long, red, curly hair over her shoulder. She pouted.
If you help me, I'll be forever grateful. If you could at least cut my hands free.
Kenneth dismounted to take a closer look. Bucephalus, still with his ears back and muscles tense, stayed with him. Kenneth examined the woman's predicament. She was webbed in so thoroughly that she had no way to free herself. If there was anyone else behind her also stuck, he couldn't tell. The extra lumps made it look possible. He looked again at his horse, who still looked dangerously angry. He removed the bladed leaf from the pack and carefully unwrapped it. When the woman saw the glint of what looked like a knife in his hand, she looked hopeful.
Oh, thank you, kind sir.
Kenneth realized that the cocoon was relatively dry and cut fairly easily using the metal leaf. When he nearly had her one hand freed, he heard another female voice above them speaking.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
He looked up and realized a giant spider was approaching on a thick strand of web that spun out from its body while it crept toward them. The woman on the ground started screaming with genuine fear and struggling when she heard the spider approach.
Unless, of course, you want to be eaten today.
Stepping back, he watched the spider warily. I'm tough and stringy and don't taste good, he responded to the implied threat.
I don't think she much cares. Lamia will eat anything,
The spider told him.
By all means, continue if it makes you happy. I won't stop you.
The spider's surprising words made him pause. Kenneth looked at the two females and pulled his sword free of his belt. He chopped free the remaining spiderweb that pinned the webbed hand in one smooth motion. The Lamia then used her free hand to pry at the webbing, entrapping the other. Her hands were nearly free when the spider threw a strand of silk to the back of the woman's head and yanked her head back. Furious that they might thwart her escape, she hissed, reared back, and swiped at Kenneth with long talons. Her snake-like fangs caught the light, and she snicked out a forked tongue. The snake woman reached out forward again in entreaty.
Help me?
Bucephalus stomped on the Lamia's hand for its trouble. It hissed again in pain when it found itself pinned back down where it couldn't reach Kenneth. Bucephalus bellowed and struck out with his other hoof, breaking the creature's nose. His rider didn't try to stop him. He winced. Ooh, that's gotta hurt, Kenneth said. The spider addressed Kenneth again.
Do you still want your prize?
She crept closer.
I can cut the silk for you,
she offered helpfully. No thanks, he said. You can have it. Whatever it is.
Good choice, the spider said. I will take care of this personally. She has been eating my prey and killing my daughters. It would have been such a bother to catch her again when she was done with you.
Without another word, the spider jumped forward onto the Lamia's back and bit its head off. The head rolled into the ditch while several feet of webbing undulated and thrashed behind the headless body. Well then, Kenneth said, it looks like we're done here. He caught the giant spider, quickly webbed the remaining body of the snake, and turned away. Remounting Bucephalus, he found Skuld was no longer behind him. He turned Bucephalus in a circle to find the Valkyrie standing calmly beside the giant spider in deep conversation. Since they didn't appear in distress, Kenneth shook his light golden brown hair out of his face and settled deeper in the saddle. They'll catch up, hun. Let's go. He patted his horse on the neck. Good job, by the way. A few minutes later, Skuld came trotting up behind them. Icewing came alongside, bringing his rider close enough to talk and keep moving.
Arachnia says that she has seen an unusual number of fell creatures creeping through her domain. This last one has been the most problematic.
Arachnia? So that's who that was. Interesting, Kenneth said.
What is interesting? Skuld asked.
That she didn't attack us. But I guess she didn't feel the need with so much food already right there, he said.
She wouldn't have whether the food was there or not. She's smart enough to know the difference in whether a snack will be, shall we say, approved, Skuld said.
So the legend is probably true. She's not truly a spider. She was just made to be one, Kenneth observed. Another thought hit him, and he continued. You were both weavers, so you know each other, or at least share something in common.
Arachnia and I, we do not share ill will for one another. Skuld smiled. She is a neutral personality. Neither does she venture out much to come for a friendly chat.
That makes sense. A spider doesn't go round on a flying horse like the Valkyries. She's kinda tied in one place. Kenneth laughed. He allowed Bucephalus to walk to the next crossroad.
Skuld sighed when they stopped. This is as far as I will go with you, she said. You are doing fine on your own, and you're making good decisions. I need to go. Too many signs are pointing to something going wrong with the fabric of the veil itself. Stay with Roxy. Stay safe and protect each other. I will see you soon.
She saluted and left them. Roxy started trotting again, and rather than stay on the road, she sniffed around a steep rise with a jumble of boulders. Let me guess. Another jump? He said to Bucephalus's pricked ears. We gotta go, Rox. Make it a shortcut, Kenneth shouted to the hound. Roxy stopped and looked at her companions. She tilted her head and looked behind her, wagging her tail and woofing. Her blue eyes looked like stars as the light darkened again. She circled once and raised her nose to the wind. Watching them, the hound jumped down from where she had intended they go. She barked excitedly and took off at another run along the road where it was easier for man and horse to follow. Roxy led them to and through a stone archway a few sharp turns later. The trail led downward and kept going. The moon paths grew steeper and winding. In places there were stone stairs that the horse navigated carefully. Roxy continued with her nose to the ground and quested after the faint prickle of power dimmed by distance. Phosphorescent light glowed to the sides of what appeared to be a colossal underground cavern. It highlighted a large river that they skirted on a wooden walkway. Somewhere in the distance they could hear the faint splash of an oar. A chill went up Kenneth's spine and he shivered. Creepy, he whispered. Why do I feel I'm about to meet death around the corner at any moment? The sound of his quiet voice echoed loudly in the chamber. Instead of crossing the river, they turned aside and went through another archway continuing down. The heat hit their faces like an oven. Kenneth noticed lava slowly oozing in a deep chasm capped by black stone where it was partially cooling. They soon passed by, and it grew cooler again to the relief of horse and rider. Yet another large cavern loomed ahead of them. It was black as pitch, with no light at all. Roxy woofed and whined as she led them through the darkness. Once his eyes adjusted, Kenneth realized that he could still see, although there was no light source. A blue glow lit their way, and Roxy showed up in the dimness. He smiled. That gives new meaning to the term headlight. The little girl's gift, imbued with her innocence and love so that Bucephalus could see, glowed brightly. Okay, horsey, watch your footing, since you have the light, Kenneth told him in an amused tone. He smoothed Bucephalus's heavy mane. Some shortcut, huh? I wonder what the long cut would have looked like. You think? He cleared his throat, trying to peer through the dimness. There's nothing here, just a lot of blackness. Why are we down here, Roxy? She barked once and stood on her hind legs, pointing at the featureless ceiling with her nose. It had lowered enough to perceive shapes and shadows in the light they carried. What is it? Oh! A colossal, sinuous shape moved by overhead as if swimming in the ooze of the primordial deep. Kenneth cringed and counted 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1,120 feet long. Dear God, he breathed. There's not supposed to be anything that big out there, according to science. He felt the drip of something wet land on his forehead. He reached up and wiped it. It was slightly gritty. Gingerly, he smelled it. Salt water, fish. It smells like the ocean. Then it dawned on him. We're under the ocean. We're going somewhere that you have to cross the sea? Roxy barked assent and took off running again. It was a flat, slightly sandy surface, and the space narrowed to a tunnel. By the time it widened out again, they had slowed to a fast trotting pace. They were still going strong when they reached what looked like an open doorway. It looks like we're finally getting somewhere. Another jump point, maybe? Except they found their way suddenly blocked. Ah, crap! Kenneth exclaimed, pulled his sword, and yanked Bucephalus into a quick stop and rear. The animal in front of them barked and jumped up and down. Why wouldn't I think that thing is real given everything else we've come across? We let our guard down. Damn it, Roxy, he swore. The three-headed dog towered over the trio. Its shoulders were nearly as broad as the tunnel. The spotted hound held Roxy dangling from the mouth of the center head. The other two heads barked deafeningly. It half-heartedly pounced at Kenneth and crouched with its tongues lolling. It wagged its massive tail. Oh my gosh! It's just a big puppy dog! He wants to play, Kenneth told Bucephalus. He decided to try the direct approach. Cerberus, put Roxy down! Bad dog! Kenneth yelled firmly. However, at the sound of his name, the three-headed dog just got more excited. Barking enthusiastically, Cerberus turned tail and ran, carrying Roxy like a puppy. Bucephalus didn't need urging and immediately pursued the three-headed dog. Warmth and light intensified as they turned into a narrow hallway. Here there were neatly formed bricks and wall sconces. At the end of the hall, Cerberus stopped before a tall and stern-looking man in a black toga. A simple gold brooch held the garment at the shoulder. Bucephalus careened to a stop just behind the dog. He was blowing hard, and his ears lay flat along his skull in anger. Kenneth wasn't in much better humor.
Spot, what did you bring home this time? Another trophy? Ah, a puppy?
If you please, we need our dog back, Kenneth told the man. I assume you are Hades, since our hound got snatched by a three-headed dog?
Cerberus doesn't have much company down here, so he gets a bit lonely,
the tall figure in the toga replied.
And yes, you all correctly identified me as the terrible, frightening Lord of the Underworld, and my loyal doggy, Spot.
Yeah, okay. About our dog. Kenneth pointed at Roxy, in the hold of the giant dog who towered over him, even mounted. We can't find our way out without her. We're only here to...
Yeah,
Hades interrupted.
Yes. Every couple of millennia, some hero with delusions of grandeur comes down here to free a loved one from my vile clutches. Who is it this time? I see you already have a soulmate with you, so it can't be her.
Kenneth glared at Hades and finished his sentence. Pass through. He growled through gritted teeth. We were only passing through to somewhere else. We had no intention of coming to your house, except your big puppy there kidnapped our guide and ran off with her. Cerberus barked again and lay down with the hapless Roxy between his paws. He licked her vigorously. Cerberus's three heads all panted happily as he woofed at his master.
I see, said Hades. Well, if you aren't here to liberate someone or make a deal, then I suppose whatever you are up to is
Not my problem. I'll have Spot take you to the border and release you. I can't have you wandering about loose here. I'm charged with taking care of souls who are in between, neither bad nor good, until such time as our Father calls them to judgment or reincarnation. Having the living mix with the dead is not good for discipline. It's messy. Just not good practice, you understand. Understandable, Kenneth nodded. I am not particularly interested in the dead anyway. I'm trying to rescue the living and prevent a war, he told the disinterested power. Sure, Hetty said. So, let's get you out of here and gone. Besides, I don't want to deal with Odin if he comes looking for his hound. Cerberus, you can't keep the puppy, okay? Put her down and take these people to the border in the direction they were going. Hades instructed his dog and patted all three heads. Dismissed, they found themselves escorted out. Cerberus herded them along until they emerged from Tartarus on a simple dirt footpath leading upward. The three-headed dog left them there with a regretful whine and bounded off into the darkness. Kenneth was relieved to be on the move again with Roxy in the lead. Compared with the maze they had just left, the new path turned out to be a direct route with the shortcut he'd hoped for. Silently waiting like a sentinel in the moonlight, another stone archway marked the end of the trail. This one was white marble and gently glowed in the light Bucephalus carried on his forelock. Roxy trotted pertly up the stairs and stopped in the center, where a blue mosaic sun decorated the floor. Bucephalus carefully picked his way upward and followed Roxy through the jump point. Once the team went through, Kenneth realized they had reached their destination. Roxy led them a short distance to a gate attached to a huge wall with guard posts everywhere. The dog stopped and sat down, looking at it.